everyone.
Let's get dangerous.
This is so cool.
I know.
It feels so right.
Jake silly.
I'm sorry, who is this?
Nice try, Moonman. Pretending not to know. Earth's greatest mastermind.
You just made the list!
I thought you said that was a myth.
Just because it's a myth doesn't mean it's not true.
If you all blindly follow my plan, we may have a chance.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
Game on, you Ducks. Can you believe it is week 3 of the fantasy football season already? Yeah, and we're 2 weeks away from buys, and we're a week away from overseas games and having to wake up super early on Sunday. It is flying by, and yet we only have 2 weeks of data. I will say that. Whether you want to call it data, watching games, watching film. I have said that on Pat Mayo's show the other day, and I hate that. I almost want to come for myself. Oh, phrasing, everybody. Right out of the gate. All right. We have an amazing guest today. Is the indomitable Andy Behrens. That's what I'm going to call him. One of the best ever, best in the business, great guy, great fantasy analyst, great mind, great everything. He's just great. Before we get to him, some of the quick things I want to talk to you guys about. We are going to talk a lot with Andy about quarterbacks like Daniel Jones, some worries with rookie running backs, some hot wide receivers on waivers. But heads up, I also included buy lows and sell highs in the column this week. I added those, so if you've already checked the link, thank you. Hopefully you check back because I added those. I know I promised I would add those, and I forgot. So they're in there now. And if you read the waiver column, one of them is Brian Thomas Jr. I watched, again, if you didn't read the column, I watched all the incompletions for the first 2 weeks. The vast majority, as in only 3, so the vast majority were Trevor Lawrence's fault. 3 were Brian Thomas's. He definitely had the one that could have been a touchdown. Turned upfield twice, and then we know the short arm one going over the middle. Business decision. He's not the first wide receiver in history to ever make a business decision. And then the rest are overthrows, mostly a few under-off throws by Lawrence, but mostly overthrows and mostly into defenders. So I am buying low on Brian Thomas. I'm not that concerned. I saw some questions, and I included him in the buy low on Ladd McConkey. He actually has about the same rate that he did last year for target percentage and opportunities and all that type of stuff. But the problem is the touchdowns aren't there yet. They've been going to Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen. So Ladd McConkey, I should have, my gut wanted me to rank him even lower this preseason because I was concerned about the touchdown rate. But yeah, Keenan Allen, I didn't think was going to go out there and catch touchdowns every single week. Quentin Johnston, I didn't necessarily know was going to finally break through. So all that being said is this feels more like where my gut felt is that Ladd McConkey is a fine wide receiver too, but we might have just seen the best of Ladd McConkey, which he could still repeat last year. It's just pushing him inside the top 10 wide receiver 1 status like a lot of people had. Was a little too lofty, which is okay. Not everyone. We get 12 wide receiver 1s. It's okay that Ladd McConkey is a wide receiver 2. So actually, if you want to buy low, that's my point here, I would. I think some people are panicking. I wouldn't buy low. I'd buy low on DK Metcalf if you're going to get a wide receiver 4 cost. If you didn't read the article or you skim right through to the rankings and the fun ones, which hella fun ones this week, which Andy will get to hear about, DK Metcalf under 6 air yards per target. By the way, last year, the best wide receiver, 6 air yards per target, was Khalil Shakir as a wide receiver 4 in fantasy points per game. Chris Godwin also fell into that category, but a little bit different with his use and the touchdown rate. Hey, if you're going to get 140 targets at that end touchdowns, 140 targets last year for Wan'Dale Robinson falling into that bucket, couldn't even get him to be a wide receiver 4. It can offset it. DK Metcalf's not that style of wide receiver. Hopefully it gets better. That's why I would buy low for a wide receiver 4, but not much more than that. On the 49ers side, Vic Tafur had a report, and I talked about it on the podcast in the preseason, right as the season was getting close. And he said all that hype and excitement for Ricky Pearsall being the one is a little overblown and a little too early. Juwan Jennings is still the one. Jennings was a little banged up in week 1, as we know, banged up again, and then through week 2. But in week 2, targets were all his. He is clearly the one. Tafur was correct. That being said, Pearsall is still a fine wide receiver 3 or 4, but Jennings is the wide receiver 2 or 3. Could both be higher with Brock Purdy coming back if George Kittle's still out. Of course, if all 3 of them are out there and Brock Purdy, that Kittle being the 3, then you're going to see some more inconsistency and kind of the values they're at right now. And then I don't usually talk defenses, but I thought this was a good week, especially as people are looking ahead, but looking for some streamers this week too. I downgraded the Bucs defense a little bit going against Tyrod Taylor. I do think he's going to obviously be safer than Justin Fields, so I don't think the Bucs are going to have quite as many opportunities for sacks and turnovers. They can still happen. I mean, Tyrod's done it in the past. It's just not as risky as it is with Fields. And then the Seahawks and the Falcons. So the Seahawks have one of the highest pressure rates for quarterbacks in the league. They get Spencer Rattler this week. If you want to go super deep, the Saints on the other side, and you want to get really risky and hope for a Sam Darnold interception, turnover, maybe one of those gets returned for a touchdown. I'm not going that far because the other one being, like I said, the Falcons, that defense might be for real. Through 2 weeks, they spent high draft capital across that defensive side of the ball, and against Carolina and Bryce Young, and whether he's throwing 30 or 55, opportunities for turnover, sacks, and all that type of stuff. So Seahawks and Falcons, the Birds are in store for potential streaming defenses this week. But as promised, Andy Behrens is here. He's going to make this show even better. Let's get him here. Let's talk some fantasy week 3 with Andy. And as I like to do, because they do it better than I can do, Andy is going to tell you about all the stuff. You should be following that now. If you're wondering hey, I know Andy's been around, but where did he go? Tell everybody the great stuff that you're doing, because I already told everybody you're one of the greatest guests I could possibly have. So now all the great stuff that you're working on is a good part to go to.
Oh, that's really nice of you, but I'm afraid that you've overpromised and I'm about to underdeliver. Yeah, they can find all of my writing. They can find almost all of my writing, but not necessarily all of it. They can find at the Deep Shot, which I basically made a decision that I'm just gonna jump in and work with some of my best friends in the industry and people that I know I'm really going to enjoy collaborating with. So Dalton Del Don and I are writing at the Deep Shot, and that's where you can find all of the things that I loved most about the old gig, and a few goodies that they never would have allowed me to write. So that's been really fun. And then I'm podcasting once a week with Chris Harris, who is probably my oldest, one of my dearest friends who is involved in the fantasy industry, but Chris and I would be friends without fantasy, without sports, without all that nonsense. So we get together once a week and talk through fantasy rankings. We've been doing, it's the kind of thing too, where if you subscribe to that podcast, the Yacht Club podcast, you get the Deep Shot. If you subscribe to the Deep Shot, you get the Yacht Club podcast. It's just it's a big combo platter of content. And then of course I'm also doing a few things at The Athletic because I enjoy you guys as well.
Yeah, mostly Funston, I will say that. Although I will admit, Andy actually hung out with us during SummerSlam in New York after Flex. Although we went to that room that I talked about last week with Eric on the podcast. I don't even know what to call it, and we dominated. Sorry, I destroyed my wife and Jay Felicio in that game. I was actually the MVP. We looked for you. You all of a sudden disappeared. You pulled the Funston. We talk about how Funston does this in New York all the time. Is all of a sudden you'll turn around and be where'd Funston go? You kind of did that. We were hey, Andy, let's go play this. And we're wait, where did Andy go?
I feel like I introduced Funston to that move. Honestly, I feel like that was my move before it was Funston's move. But I was actually wandering around Dave & Buster's for quite some time. Cause that's places like that are home base for me. Adult arcades, I will get lost and lose all track of time. What Vegas is to most people, a Lucky Strike or a Dave & Buster's is to me. So I can't even tell you how long I was actually in there playing Pop-A-Shot and trying to rig the Pop-A-Shot games by moving all the balls over to one machine that I was at. I was doing that for a little while. So I'm not sure how long I was there, but at some point I do remember thinking to myself, I've been out for a while. I should probably get back before bad decisions are made or I get lost or whatever else.
You buy $100 card at Dave & Buster's.
Yeah, that's my move. Yeah.
We actually really enjoyed the Connect 4 Pop-A-Shot. That's a whole nother level with the
I love
Pop-A-Shot.
that game. Yeah, I love
You know what? Game. This is great because sneak preview tease, your last question before you get out of here has something to do related to that, interestingly enough. And that's just a coincidence. But no, before we get to that, let's start right off with quarterbacks because Joe Burrow, if you had him, was a big hurt in a lot of leagues. It was including mine in the stack league, of course. I was hey, you know what? I'll be the guy that doesn't have to worry about quarterback. He's fallen enough that I'll do it. And now I got Jake Browning, but that's where I wanted to go with this. And I'm curious your opinion. So when I wrote up the waiver in the rankings column this week, I said the only way you can hope to get Joe Burrow production is to chase that. One, Daniel Jones is fixed by Steichen and maybe even a little bit of O'Connell with the time that he spent there last year. Or Jake Browning, who's been top 10. His only non-2 top 10 performances were the 2 games against the Steelers that year, which was still a really good defense. Are you the same thought process, or if you're a Joe Burrow manager, do you say, you know what? I've seen a lot of people say Jared Goff is out there, or a Stafford or a Geno, like you're just going to play it safe? Or are you with my thought process of like, you lost one of your biggest pieces, you have to take the chance?
Yeah, so Goff is an interesting name because I actually thought, and I feel like I made this point a few times in the preseason, I feel like Jared Goff was in exactly the same situation as Joe Burrow, and we didn't talk about it enough, right? Like the sort of broad outline of what we liked about Joe Burrow was the supporting cast, and hey, this defense is going to be terrible. It's going to be one shootout after another. And I don't think that Detroit's defense is terrible, but I also think they're the sort of defense that is definitely going to give up 20 plus per game. They're going to give up some numbers, and like Goff is going to. Plus, the tendency of Dan Campbell is obviously we're going to keep the pedal to the floor and we're going to keep rolling. They did that to the Bears in a big way. So I feel like Goff was in a similar situation. He's surrounded by similar talent. So if you actually could go out and get Jared Goff, that would be my preference. Otherwise, I love the way this looks for Daniel Jones. And I didn't even think much about his week 1 performance because, you know, it was an ugly looking version of Miami and they took advantage of it and fine. And we got a couple of rushing touchdowns and that won't be there all week, or all year. But man, when they did what they did to Denver, I was pretty impressed. And it's not like Jones didn't glitch at all against Denver. You know, he missed Josh Downs on a potential touchdown and he threw one ball that probably should have been picked, but that's almost every quarterback in the league, and they are giving him rushing opportunities. It is a very talented receiving core. It's not Cincinnati, but he's a dual threat guy who's got some real weapons, and I love the design. I love what they're doing with Tyler Warren. I don't know that you intended to talk about Tyler Warren later, no. But man, the stuff that they are running for him, that little play where like he's lined up as a fullback and it's play action and you think he's just a lead blocker and then he just leaks out and it becomes like a near 40-yard gain. Like the stuff they're drawing up is really fun. So I think Daniel Jones can be a solution. Of course, we already have proof of concept with Jake Browning, and he's the guy who gets to throw to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, which matters a lot.
It definitely does. And yeah, if I knew Daniel Jones was going to be the quarterback the entire season, I would have had Tyler Warren in a few more places. Unfortunately, I think I have him one. But I want to talk about a wide receiver where I got some pushbacks because I said he's clearly the one. Well, this wide receiver clearly ran as the one, even though he had one target. And the point being is he's still a wide receiver 3 if he peaks, because wide receiver 3s are going to have some one target games. Like, they're not perfect. But as I titled this, Boutte, 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 Boutte everywhere, Kayshon Boutte is what I want to talk about. And I wanted to bring other wide receivers into this conversation of saying, like, you can give your opinion on Boutte, but Boutte also versus these other wide receivers that are kind of, we've now hit 2 weeks and we're kind of in these wide receiver 3-4s of what they could be, but there's also, they're without, not without warts. So the first one being up is Boutte versus Troy Franklin, who has clearly taken over the number 2 role for the Broncos. Would you go Boutte as the one potentially for the Patriots, or would you go Troy Franklin, who, by the way, I don't know if you heard, but he played with Bo Nix and they got dinner together.
What?
I said earlier today, I don't know if you know this, wore the same Halloween costumes, like went on putt-putt dates. No, but would you go Boutte or Troy Franklin in that toss-up?
They each have those half-heart necklaces, and if you put them together, it makes one heart. Oh, it's really
They
lovely.
didn't find each other the first year. That's what it was. It's like, hey.
Yeah, I've certainly been impressed by Boutte. Like, both of these guys are tied to quarterbacks where it's kind of a roller coaster ride each game so far. I mean, I know the numbers have been there for Bo Nix, but it doesn't always look clean. Drake May had like one really ugly game in which Boutte like had a day, and then a better game last week in which Boutte was only targeted one time. So I probably prefer Franklin. It's close. And there's some recency bias here because I just really, really enjoyed the performance last week. A lot of design stuff, a lot of first read targets to him, and then when it was scramble time, when it was time to like, I got to find somebody down there somewhere, he found the old college teammate, and it was a splash play, like a field flipping play. So I enjoyed that. Like there's not too many names, actually, as I look at your list here. There's not too many names that I'm going to choose over Boutte, but I think Franklin is one of them. I'm pretty interested there.
All right, well, let's go to number 2 then. Rookie in Matthew Golden, who wasn't the one like a lot of us expected. Well, myself, I don't want to speak for you, but he wasn't the one for the Packers. He wasn't even the 2. But now Jaden Reed is hurt. If you watch that game for everybody out there, which a lot of people island game, so they probably saw it, but one overthrow and one underthrow, and we have 100 yards and a touchdown on his books, and he's probably one of the hottest waiver pickups there is. That being said, he did rotate a bit with Wicks after Reed left. So would you go Boutte or Golden? And if you're going Boutte, are you willing to drop Golden without knowing what's going to happen this week?
Oh gosh, I'd probably want to see another week of Golden. I do think that Wicks is the guy who's probably going to benefit a little bit more in terms of playing time, in terms of usage from the Reed injury. And Wicks has looked really good. A lot of it with Golden was of course wish casting, right? And it's this desire to see the Packers, and it made sense. He's the first wide receiver they've taken in the first round in a million years, and it made sense to pitch an argument that they finally have a number one. And it matched the camp hype, right, that we were hearing not just from beat reporters, but from, Jordan Love talking him up and LaFleur talking. Everybody was talking up Golden. And it all looked good, but he's been so lightly used. I probably feel a little bit better about Boutte than him, but I would also be reluctant. If I drafted him and, I paid an expectant price on Golden, I would probably be holding for another week or two to see what this looks like without Reed.
Okay, I'm going to toss these 3 together because I promise I keep everybody quick on these podcasts, and you yourself. And we have 2 more questions and then 2 fun ones. The fun ones are going to be quick anyway. But Cedric Tillman, who is possibly the one for the Browns at this point. Wan'Dale Robinson, who is getting his targets, but now he's actually getting them more than 2 yards downfield. Yeah. Or Darnell Mooney, and we know Mooney. Like, we know who he is. So of those 3, are you taking Boutte over all 3, or is there one that you like from that group? And then if not, is there one from that group that you like the best?
I'm trying to keep an open mind with Wan'Dale because I thought I knew him, and I thought he was just sort of an imposter receiver, and everything was going to be at or behind the line of scrimmage, and it was all going to be boring stuff, and none of it was going to amount to anything, and he was everything that was wrong with PPR. Like that's what I thought about Wan'Dale. And
I love that you threw that in there.
and then he runs into the reality of Russell Wilson, which is, a lot of it's going to be at the line of scrimmage, and then I'm going to take these shots 40 yards downfield, and if he's going to be part of that, I'm open to it because the version of Wan'Dale Robinson that we saw in college can do that stuff. So I don't know. I'm probably of all these names, I'm most interested in Robinson, and part of that also is that I really liked everything that I saw from Jackson Dart in the preseason. It's only preseason, but I'm very willing to have been wrong on Jackson Dart because I was not a believer at the start of the summer, and by the end of the summer, I was like, how quickly can this guy be the quarterback? So even if there is a change, I still feel good about what's ahead for Robinson.
It's funny you say that because we'll both be wrong because I called him Daniel Jones 2.0. I was like, congratulations, Giants. You moved on from Daniel Jones to just get Daniel Jones again. But hey, if he's Colts Daniel Jones, we're like, good.
Well, I felt like, I've fallen for this Lane Kiffin quarterback thing before, and you tricked me a lot of different ways, but you're not going to trick me with a Lane Kiffin quarterback. And then all of a sudden, every preseason snap, it was even the incompletions were great, and they hit people in the chest, right? And I'm like, oh man, how soon can this kid start?
How's that for a transition? How soon can we get production here? So it is full. It's only 2 weeks into the season, but it is. I joked about this on Twitter. So we're going to get to the end of the season. Is Judkins going to be the only top 15 rookie running back? Because it comes to, like, Jeanty's been bad. Hampton's been bad, but also now 2 games in, there was almost a 50-50 split. It touches, not snaps. Trevion Henderson can't get on the field. RJ Harvey, even more so, can't get on the field. I understand that Jeanty's probably your least concern, but as a whole, I just want to talk to you at the running back position because this is the best class ever, and it still arguably is. It's just, I don't think anybody expected it to be this bad. We don't have one single top 15 running back that's a rookie so far, and it's looking gross. So I'm assuming, like I said, Jeanty's your least concern, but like how concerned, like if you want to quickly touch on all 4, should we be for these rookie running backs as a whole?
Yeah, Chris and I actually just talked about the same collection of players on the podcast, and I will say that while it is true that Jeanty is the one that I am least concerned about in terms of like job loss and seeing the field, like I don't think that's going to be a real issue. Zamir White's not coming for anybody's job, but he was also your first round pick, and you can't, your first round pick can't just be a running back who volumes his way to 1,100 yards and like 6 touchdowns, and then we look at it at the end of the year and we're like, he was fine. No, those are not first round numbers. If that's what you get out of your first round running back, you're not winning your league. So he's a huge concern, even though I don't think he's gonna lose his job. He's also a guy who, like, in terms of like the leap in quality of competition from, I mean, the Mountain West was basically you force one missed tackle and you're gone, and it's a 45-yard touchdown. And, the NFL isn't like that. And I remember thinking that in the preseason when he would, he'd make a really nice initial move, make somebody miss, but then the next tackler is just 2 yards away. And he's going to have to get used to that. And I feel like he will. Like, we saw some moments in the Chargers game, and he had that nice, he buried a guy and it was like a 13-yard run. So, like, we're seeing the moments, and it's fine, but I am concerned. Hampton is the one that I'm almost fully past the Omarion Hampton era at this point. I have him in one league, and I just thought it would look better. It's a hard life for a running back who needs, like, he can't change direction without coming to a full stop and, like, gearing down and gearing up again. And, like, that's just, it's hard to be that guy. You need the right system, and you need an awesome line, and everything's got to fall into place. And he had the fumble in the Raiders game that I feel like is going to cost him touches. So that I'm worried there. And then Henderson and Harvey each have the same problem in that the guys sharing the backfield with them have looked great. Like, Ramondre isn't, he looked like the Ramondre of like 2 or 3 years ago.
Or the first few games last year.
yeah, right. He was excellent this week, and excellent as a receiver too. And he's getting more than the yards that are, sort of blocked for him too. So Ramondre is one problem. And then the other problem, of course, is that he was just turnstiling in pass protection and drew a couple of holding flags, and, like, he was the guy who was supposed to be able to pass protect, and if he's not able to do that,
the best pass blocker in the draft class.
Right. Like, we were even seeing, like, camp clips of him in pass pro, which never happens with rookies, but that was a really bad game. And all you can hope for is that it was just an isolated single bad game, and it's not going to repeat. And eventually, he's going to see 50% of the backfield touches or whatever you expected. Harvey basically has one touch this season that has gone well, and nothing else has gone well, and J.K. Dobbins is good. So you're going to have to, like, unless or until J.K. Dobbins goes down with an injury, and I know everybody always assumes that that's going to happen. Maybe it will, but I feel like that's what it's going to take for R.J. Harvey to come to even approach, getting value at where you drafted him.
Yeah, the one quick thing on Jeanty, I love that point you made. I think he's sometimes trying to do too much. He's like, it's like somebody playing Madden with, like, spin move, spin move, spin move, spin move. Like sometimes, like, that's not how you make everybody miss in the NFL. And I know they're not all spin moves, but you get my point. All right, real quick, fancy question.
Also with Jeanty, like, not everything is going to go to the house. Like, that's what he's got to get used to too. Like, this is the NFL. Sometimes 4 yards is a great outcome.
Couldn't agree more. All right, so we see Scadaboo potentially already, which is very interesting because he basically was a non-factor in the preseason, especially a rookie not getting any time on the field for the preseason. But that being said, looks like he might already be coming for Tracy's job. Tootin making noise now that Bigsby is gone. Woody Marks flashing in that game, although Nick Chubb on that touchdown run did look kind of not explosive like Chubb was, but there was some burst in that step. Of all three of these, is Scadaboo the easy answer of, like, the one we should be most excited about the non-big four?
It's the analytically, I would say yes, because we've already seen a game where he sort of dominated the backfield touches. So I should say yes. I just haven't loved it so far, and I don't know that the style he has where at the end of every run he just wants to hit the self-destruct button.
He's the
and
juggernaut.
take everybody out. Yeah, like that was cool in college, but I don't think it's I don't think it's going to work in the NFL, and I think he's got to be a different
He's going to
guy.
Gus Farad himself out of a game, basically. Is what you're telling me.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, he won angry runs a couple weeks ago without even gaining any yards after contact. He just tried to blow up a couple people and then went down, and we called that the angry run winner for the week. I don't know. I mean, I didn't. Kyle did. Whatever. Like, I get people enjoying his style, but I don't know that it's that this is a built to last guy. I loved Tootin this week, and I had been previously agnostic about Tootin. I wasn't really like banging the table for him or anything, but I thought every touch I saw was great. The problem here, and this is the same thing with Harvey and Henderson, Travis Etienne looks good, and it's been really good so far. And I don't expect that Tootin is going to see more than 10 touches a game, 10 touches a game, but he also looks explosive enough to maybe by the time when the bye weeks start rolling, maybe he's somebody we can flex at 10 touches a game.
Okay. Well, here, I promised you get 2 fun questions before you get out of here. The first one actually might not be so much fun because it's that time of year, it's week 3, so trades are starting to trickle in and people are so I want to know, which is the worst thing that you think in fantasy when it comes to trades, Andy? You get a terrible lowball offer. You get the decline ghost, where you send something to just decline and no reason, no context, no whatever. Or the person who just leaves your offer hanging there, even though you know they've checked their team, and it's just sitting there, like at least put you out of your misery. So which is it, the low ball, the declining ghost, or just the leaving it hanging?
The leaving it hanging is the thing that gets me because, because I'm thinking about it constantly. I assume for the first day that if I've put the offer out there and you haven't reacted to it, but I see you doing other things, right? I see you made an ad drop, so I know you saw it. I know you saw it if you made the ad drop. I think that, you're really contemplating this. And sometimes you just have to learn that there are people out there in your leagues that are just never going to make a trade because they would rather they would rather lose the league than risk the possibility that they lost a trade, right? Like that is a certain type of fantasy manager, and you have to figure out who those people are. But those are the ones that I linger over, and those are the ones that I keep coming. And then at some point, you've got to be the jerk who withdraws the trade offer, right? And that feels that's its own kind of defeat. Because I want. Hey, I made this initially. I don't want to pull it back. I don't want to be the guy who's like, oh no, I don't know. What have I done? Maybe I don't want to do this, and then you withdraw it. But you have to do it eventually after 4 days, 5 days. You can't just leave it out there indefinitely until the games start again. So I don't like that situation because it drags out over multiple days.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. My original tweet yesterday was the low ball and ghost, and I don't know if you saw the results. I Vegased it, Andy. It was a complete it was like, because I put third answer was just I could just want to see the results. It was like 43.6 or something random like that to 4. Like it was dead even. Like I've never seen a poll like that come out. I know, right? Like I should go start working for Vegas. How about this one? This is the Nando special, I like to call it. This is it's the pick your poison. So you have to pick one of these 3 scenarios. Your team's running backs. These are your only running backs. All rookies. Henderson, Harvey, Tootin, Caleb Johnson, and Woody Marks, which might have actually happened to a single person out there. If you have that roster, I want to see it. So those are your only running backs, all those rookies, Henderson, Harvey, Caleb, Tootin, and Woody. Second option, you can never play a quarterback in your second super flex spot. So you can play a quarterback in your main one, but you can never play a quarterback in your super flex. Or your third is your celebrity crush gets a text message every time you fart.
I mean, it would definitely be the third. I would absolutely take the third. I mean, first of all, I'm ancient and I've been married forever, and I don't even know who my celebrity crush is. And I love the idea.
It could be a guy Ryan Reynolds. You never know, just to hang out with him.
Maybe it's Brandon Funston. I don't know. I love the idea of some random out there receiving a message notifying them that yes, Andy has farted again. I love it. That wouldn't embarrass me in the slightest, unless I don't know, the messages become too frequent. But that wouldn't even really embarrass me. I'm delighted by that scenario.
This is the Nando special. All right, before you get out of here, my top 20 arcade games was my fun ranks this week. So what is your number 1 top arcade game? 90s, early 2000s, 80s, whatever. They're all in there. So what was your favorite? You can't be Pop-A-Shot. Like, I want arcade, you're standing there kind of game.
Yeah. These, so my favorites, and these are all kind of equal. I don't know if I can pick a winner between these. It depends on my mood. Big Burger Time fan. Love Burger Time.
Burger Time made my top 20.
I love Burger Time. It's kind of a slept-on game, and I feel like it's maybe the Zoomers, the millennials
Here's
don't
the crazy
know Burger
one.
Time.
I said it's better than Donkey Kong.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I
Okay.
agree with that fully. That's a good take by you. A rare good take by Jake.
A rare one.
And Frogger and Asteroid are also personal favorites.
Frogger made the list too. Asteroid didn't. I just never got into it. I was more like Galaga for like
I'm actually only thinking of Asteroids because I was just at I'm probably once a week I'm at some like weird adult arcade bar and nailed a high score on Asteroids. And I don't even think of myself as a particularly good player, but I rediscovered the hyperspace option and it was working for me. I had a hot hand in that game and it went really well.
Well, yeah, you won't call the greatest at that, but like one of the greatest in the business, Andy Behrens, at Andy Behrens. Make sure you're checking out the Deep Shot. Make sure you listen to the podcast and everything that he's doing over there, and give him some love. He might be nearing the end of retirement, as he said, but like you still deserve plenty of love for what you're doing. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Thanks, Jake.
Once again, huge thanks to Andy Behrens, one of the best to ever do it. And if you're wondering, we'll be back on Friday for the notes that you need for week 3, injuries and all that type of stuff. Quick speed run version, under 15 minutes, maybe even under 10. Over at The Athletic is where the ranks and the waivers and all your questions can be asked, including the live Discord chat on Thursdays. So until next time, good luck. I guess good luck on Thursday Night Football, because that's the only thing that's going to happen before I talk to you again.